Praise be Jesus and Mary. It is I, do not be afraid. The apostles, they needed to hear these words, in the situation they found themselves in. It was dark, they were on the sea, and the sea was growing violent. The waves were battering against their boat, and they were threatened of drowning, of being sunk. And Jesus, was not with them, or so they thought. Because of all this, they were afraid, quite understandably. But Jesus came to them, walking on water, and assured them, it is I, be not afraid. And before you know it, they ended up, arriving safely at the shore. Now, the boat in this particular passage represents the church, represents the church throughout the ages. And the storm-tossed sea, represents the world, always threatening, the church, as it were, with temptations and persecutions of various kinds. And no matter how bleak and dire things might look, as if the boat is about to sink, the church is about to be destroyed, and it might seem to be the case, Jesus, calls out to his disciples again and assures them, it is I, do not be afraid. And before you know it, the boat, the church, reaches shore, the shore of heaven, safe and secure, eternally. As followers of Christ, we too need to prepare ourselves, for difficult moments. We can always count on them as those who desire to be faithful to our Lord and to strive for holiness. As we know, there are always temptations and difficulties that come our way when we are trying to be fully committed to our Lord. And others take notice of that. Those who aren't particularly pleased, that we give ourselves entirely to Christ and to His kingdom. Those enemies of ours, those that are visible, but also those that are invisible, especially Satan and his minions, always out to make us trip and fall, as it were, and to destroy us ultimately, and to lead us to what he desires most, our discouragement and our despair of giving in, giving up, throwing in the towel, as it were, in our following of Christ and of seeking holiness, and also of doing good for our Lord and the church and for souls. There are many people who would have us to be afraid, to be fearful, and because fear is something that is something of an obstacle to us. It paralyzes us in many ways. Our own personal holiness, striving to go forward, to take another step, but also in reaching out to others and sharing the faith. At times takes a bit of courage. So there are many out there who would have us be, fearful, because that is what will ultimately, lead to, inactivity and a lack of good results, as it were, for our Lord and His kingdom. But our Lord wants us to be courageous, to be not afraid, for He is indeed with us. He's with us as God, spiritually. He's always with us, and He's with us especially when we are united with Him through His Word, the Scriptures, read with faith, and especially in the church, in the sacraments, above all in the Holy Eucharist. Our Lord always continually assures us from the tabernacle, from the altar, from the sacred host, it is I, be not afraid. And our Lord gives us the strength we need, to carry out His will, courageously. So let us, be mindful of these words of our Lord, these words of consolation, these words which will give us strength in those moments that we need it most. Praise be Jesus and Mary.
misericordes oculos, nos converte, et Jesús